Hi everyone. Don't mind me. I literally just got off of work, jumped in the shower, and didn't even bother putting on any makeup. So we're just gonna get right into it. So for my topic, I'm going to be looking at 9/11, and more specifically, I'm going to be looking at the way that like evacuation policies have changed since 9/11, and specifically in regards to those with disabilities. I think that the terrorist attack that happened really like set a precedence for the way that we need to look at evacuating buildings and getting individuals out of situations like that in a more productive manner. And it kind of just like opens your eye as to like the way that things have changed, and how more cautious we are and prepared we are for things like this. I'm pretty sure everyone really can remember 9/11. I think we're all old enough to have at least kind of experienced it. But just a little recap, it was the four terrorist attacks that happened from the Islamic group Al Qaeda. And during the whole disaster, there was 2,996 people that were actually killed, and there was over 6,000 people that were injured during the attack. And overall, the 9/11 attack caused $10 billion worth of damage to the Twin Towers. And after the attack, there were still other people that died from illnesses from the attack, so like related to cancer and respiratory disease and all that good stuff. Um, so it's a huge thing that affected the United States, and I think it really did make an impact on the way that we view evacuation policies. And especially because of how people with disabilities are becoming more prominent now, that we need to take into consideration how we're going to get them out of a building safely. So that's what I'm kind of narrowing my topic down to. So when I was doing my searches, I kind of started out very broad, and I just started out with 9/11, and of course that brought up so many different scholarly articles about 9/11 and what happened and what it is and what the event is. So that was good information to have, just to like kind of get a refresher of everything that did happen and like see all the articles that talk about 9/11. But then I moved on to evacuation policies and used that as a search term and got some interesting things that popped up in regards to things that have been in place. And then I also went ahead and just typed in like along with evacuation, individuals with disabilities. And that kind of brought up a little bit, but I think like my wording was a little weird. And so that is one thing that I really need to work on, is like how I do my wording when I do a search. But then I figured out like the best ways to do it to get good hits on articles. Because I did find some really good articles, which I think will help me in my research. But if you're looking for ways to like do your research, I would say start out fairly broad, because then you can look at articles that are significant to your topic, and then by looking at those articles you can look at like the tagged like keywords that are in the articles, and then you can use those to find other articles that are related to your topic, which I found was really helpful too. That kind of like helped me figure out like how to go for to like evacuation, and then like disabilities and evacuation and policy and all that. So I think that that would be a good way if you're struggling to kind of just look at like the tag key terms. Um, in regards to my topic, when I was doing my searching, I found some really good articles. A lot of them, I think I need to do like a little bit more like fine tuning to understand them, because the 9/11 attack is a very, very broad topic overall. So one of the articles that I found was called "The Past is Present." And it's like about the chaos, the pre and post 9/11, and the way that like it kind of just like gave information based on like how the United States was, and how like no matter what, 9/11 still like is carried with us up and even till today. And then I also found another article called "Symbols of Terror: 9/11 as the Word of the Thing and the Thing of the Word." It's kind of like a weird phrasing, but it like kind of shows how like 9/11, the word, like just even hearing 9/11 brings a lot of like emotions to people, especially those who have lived through it. It's kind of like a word, phrase, however you want to say it, that kind of you automatically start thinking. And that kind of like helped me understand, like reading the article kind of helped me understand kind of the like mindset that people have towards 9/11. But like it also makes me think about like what are the topics that we aren't covering, because we're so focused on like all the people that did die and all of the attacks that have happened afterwards and how it kind of like sets a precedence for like now type of deal. But then underneath that article, I found another article that's called The End of Life Experiences of 9/11, the death and dying in the World Trade Center. So that article kind of just like gave information about the like types of dying that people go through and like how the deaths were in 9/11. So kind of just like people died from like burning, people died, some were jumping out of the windows and like basically killing themselves because they didn't want to go through it. Some were crushed by the infrastructure of the buildings. So just like talking about the different ways that people did die. So then it kind of like made me question, okay, so like those that are disabled, did they even have like a fighting chance? Like not really kind of like deal, because they always tell you in case of a disaster, you don't want to ever take an elevator. But like if someone's in a wheelchair, they don't really have an option type of thing. So it kind of made me think about the people that did die, if they were disabled or who was disabled, what their options were at that point in time. And then I like was looking at disabilities overall, and I found an article called The Human Right to Safe Exit, University Evacuation Policy, and the Mobility Impairment. Although this is kind of focused more on like the way that people evacuate through schools, just the way that buildings in general have been built recently. I think that they're taking into consideration those with disabilities. So the article really hit on the topic of being able to evacuate from a building safely, which I think is super important for my topic. And then the last article that I found that was really like good for my topic was the effects of support on evacuation preparedness of persons with disabilities. And it kind of just talked about how people with disabilities deserve the right, just like everyone else, to make it safely out of a building. And it kind of like just talks about the people that do support this, so like disability acts and all that. So overall, I think that like I found topics, like articles that were really good for my overall topic. But as far as like questions that I would have for librarians, I kind of want more articles that are geared towards 9/11 specifically and how building infrastructure has changed. I had a hard like time finding articles that were related to both. I kind of had to just like pick one or the other. So I think that I will be contacting the librarians to try to figure out good search terms to find articles that are related to both topics. But that's all I have for this week. Sorry the video is kind of long. I talk a lot. But everyone have a great weekend.